Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for OnSI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward through another offseason together. As always, you can find our 24/7 boots on the ground, 100% free coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day on social media such as Facebook and Twitter when you follow us at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. I'm your host, John Shipley, and today we are going over the Jaguars and their 2025 NFL schedule. It's officially been announced by the NFL. Real quick, we'll go through weeks 1 through 18. They open the season versus the Carolina Panthers. Their first road trip is week 2 at the Cincinnati Bengals before coming back home in week 3 versus the Houston Texans. After that, they got the San Francisco 49ers on the road in week 4, and then a week 5 Monday Night Football matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. An absolutely massive game, massive test for Liam Cohen and his staff. Week 6, they play the Seattle Seahawks at home. Week 7, they travel to London, Pip Cheerio, to play the Los Angeles Rams. Student versus master, Liam Cohen versus Sean McVay, James Gladstone versus Les Snead, Trevor Lawrence versus Matthew Stafford, the Rams established wide receiver duo versus the Jaguars with their young and upcoming wide receiver duo. That is a fascinating game, in my opinion. To me, the most interesting game on the Jaguars' entire schedule. Week 8, the Jaguars will get their bye right there and smack dab near the middle of the season. And then in week 9, they hit the road again to take on the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas. Week 10, they have another road game, this time against the Houston Texans. So just for perspective, week 7 through week 10, they have road games. And I'm calling London a road game because while they're the designated home team, London is not in Jacksonville. So both teams are road games or road teams. So week 7, road game in London. Week 9, road game in Vegas. Week 10, road game in Houston. Then they come back home to play the Los Angeles Chargers in week 11 before week 12 and week 13 sees them make another back-to-back road trip span versus the Arizona Cardinals and the Tennessee Titans. Then the Jaguars come home to play only their second back-to-back home stretch of the season with home games against the Indianapolis Colts and New York Jets. And then they finish the season off on the road, back-to-back games against the Denver Broncos and Indianapolis Colts before a Week 18 season finale against the Tennessee Titans. Now, folks, this is quite the schedule. There are a lot of games on here that will tell us just how far the Jaguars, are coming in the first year under Liam Cohen. That will tell us, just how well they're playing. That will give us really an answer to the biggest question that I think has evaded so many people this offseason, which is, what are the expectations for this team? Now, I will be having an article coming out on my game-by-game predictions. I have an idea for what I see right now as their final record. I'd love for you guys to read that, debate it, let me know what you think, but there are a lot of games on here that are going to be tough tests. I mean, road games, road game in Vegas, road game in San Francisco, road game in Arizona, road game in Denver. You're playing in London. Those are 5 very long trips that'll, certainly test a young coaching staff, young roster, and very young front office. Now, of course, they only get 2 standalone primetime games. Week 5 versus the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football, and then Week 7 in London in the morning. You guys know me. I've said it before. I love the, covering the London games because, man, my work is done by 4 o'clock that day as opposed to, on a 1 o'clock game. I'm probably closing my laptop around 2, 3 a.m. Ultimately, I'm not too shocked that the Jaguars didn't get more primetime games. A part of me did think drafting Travis Hunter might impact that, but nobody assumed they were going to draft Travis Hunter until, shortly before the Jaguars were on the clock. Obviously, the schedule has been made for a while. Had the draft been held like a month earlier, maybe that changes. So I think, moving forward into 2026, Travis Hunter will put a lot more primetime level eyes on the Jaguars. I just think, him being connected to the Jaguars and drafted by the Jaguars happened so late in the process this year that it's just hard for them to make much of a crack. But I do think just his general star power, people are going to want to see him. People who aren't even Jags fans are going to want to see this guy. So I think in 2026, probably expect more primetime games, probably expect some of those on the road, etc. But I understand why they don't get many now. I mean, last year, their Monday Night Football experience was a complete throttling by the Buffalo Bills, lost by 30-plus points. One of the worst losses in franchise history. It was one of those losses I told you this season is over. The party's over. The band's gone home. The fat lady is done singing. We knew then that regime was done with. There was no coming back from that game. And then the previous year, Monday Night Football, Christian Kirk gets hurt. Trevor Lawrence gets hurt. They go into the game 8-3, and then that starts, a terrible losing streak that sees them miss the playoffs completely. So obviously, not some great luck on Monday Night Football in the last 2 years. We'll see if that changes against the Chiefs. The Jaguars went 0-3 against the Chiefs in the regular and postseason in 2022 and 2023. Doug Peterson just could not get past his mentor, Andy Reid. We'll see if Liam Cohen and his staff have any better luck. It's, of course, interesting. Jags interviewed Spags, Chiefs defensive coordinator, etc. Another matchup, Trevor Lawrence versus Patrick Mahomes. So far, Mahomes has had his number. He has most quarterbacks' numbers, but the Jaguars they haven't been able to get past the Chiefs. If the Jaguars in week 5 knock off the Chiefs, even if it's an early season victory, which, all victories kind of equal, but a late season victory of the Chiefs kind of feels more impressive just to me, just based on vibes, I guess. But even though it's early, it still would be a very impressive win, an impressive day for the Jaguars and Liam Cohen if in his 5th game as a head coach, they knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. That game will be at home at Everbank Stadium. It'll certainly be rocking, but that to me is another interesting game on the Jaguars' radar. I think, that first 7-week stretch, you play 6 teams who have been playoff teams in the very recent, past. The only team in their first 7 weeks, so I consider not even a playoff team on paper right now, is the Carolina Panthers, which I'm still just not a Bryce Young believer. I do think he definitely got better. He went from being one of the worst starters in the NFL to still, in my opinion, not really that impressive a quarterback, but certainly improved. Won't take that away from him. But I just think the Panthers defense still with a lot of additions, still has question marks on it. Their offense has question marks. It will be interesting to watch Ted McMillan, however, against Travis Hunter. But after that, I mean, the Bengals, they're lucky to get them early because the Bengals are always bad early in the season. So that helps. But week 3 against Houston, always a tough game. Going to San Francisco, I don't think will be an easy game, even if the 49ers are a much different roster now than they were. Then, of course, you get the Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks at home. I'm not a Sam Darnold guy. I'm not a Cooper Kupp guy. I didn't really like either addition. I thought they downgraded from Geno Smith and DK Metcalf, but it's still a spry team that, has something to it. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Rams in week 7. So we will know very quickly about this Jaguars team. It's a much easier second half of the season. You play most of the bad teams in the second half, get some favorable breaks their way. But I think that we are going to learn a lot about this specific Jaguars team over the first 2 months of the season. And we'll know what our expectations should be for the second half of the season. Because even and again, my prediction article will be coming out. You can read it. Already wrote it, etc. I know what my expectations for them are. I'm interested to hear if they vary from your guys. For the record, I had the Jaguars going 10-7 last year and also 13-4 the year before. So I've shot a little high. I've definitely shot a little high. And I'm aimed to not do that this year, but I just call it how I see it. balls and strikes, down the middle, whatever you want to call it. So those are my takes right now on the Jaguars schedule. We will also be going over in another episode our week 1 through week 18 predictions and kind of laying out why we see things the way they are. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. You can find us at the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like, subscribe, review, follow, whatever you got to do. And you can also find all of our podcasts, interviews, press conferences, etc. on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI.